This regular meeting of the Marion County Board of Supervisors to order. Roll call.
Keisha Johnner. Here. Mark Ramey.
Here.
Steve McCombs.
Here.
All right, very good. We'll entertain a motion on today's agenda.
Make motion to approve today's agenda.
Second.
McCombs.
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye.
Johnner. Aye.
Communications, Jake.
None.
Supervisors.
None.
Keisha.
Nope.
All right, done here as well. All right. Public comments is the portion of our agenda. The public can speak on items not listed on this morning's agenda. The board cannot act on those items. They could be topics for future meetings. Are there any public comments on items not listed on this morning's agenda? Sheriff Sandholt.
I just wanted to comment real quick, our hit and run accident that Andrew DeHaan, Mike, he really helped us during that on some things. And then also at the grounding.
Hang on, can you,
Yeah, Jason, sorry, bud.
I want to make sure everybody hears it.
Yeah, Andrew with IT on Saturday went above and beyond helping us get some videos and different things from that hit and run accident that was there. And then also Steve's guys with the missing individual that we ended up finding in the lake, county conservation, Steve's guys came down and helped us with that. So just wanted to thank them for their assistance on both of those.
Very good. Thanks for
Thank
the
you.
comments on that, Sheriff. Appreciate it. Thank you. Are there any other public comments on items not on this morning's agenda? Renee, anything online? Nope. Anything else in the room? Seeing none, we'll move on. Is there a motion on this morning's consent agenda?
I'll make motion to approve today's consent agenda.
Second.
Ramey.
Aye.
Johnner. Aye. McCombs.
Aye.
Okay, very good. On to business. First item is a request from Columbia Land Company for approval of a minor plats of subdivision parcel D.
Correct.
Missy.
So this again is a subdivision required in an area where according to 56.0340A, we have, this will be split number 6 or lot number 6. There's already been one waiver granted in the area. So subdivision required, no rezoning required. Again, it's already been rezoned to this parcel. It's going to be commercial. And there's commercial ag, so no rezoning required. It's been through the zoning commission and approved last week on the 18th. They had a public hearing. We had one neighbor comment, just inquiry. The intentions are, the reason the subdivision's being done is the current owner plans to sell off parcel D and keep the remaining farm ground. Access is not a problem. There's adequate access, as you can see from the comments, the county engineer's office. Environmental health is working with the current owner on any requirements as far as septic updates. And from a zoning standpoint, Marion County subdivision ordinance, it meets all the minimum requirements. We have the required paperwork in hand that needs to be recorded with the subdivision, so pretty straightforward.
All right. Board, any questions for Missy on this?
No, I visited with Missy yesterday a little bit about it, just wanting clarity on the parcel and how it was split up and originally, and she was able to provide that information. So no, I don't have anything further.
Very good. Thank you, Steve.
No, I'm good.
All right. Very good, Missy. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no further discussion. I would entertain a motion on this request for this plat of subdivision of parcel D.
I make a motion, we approve the request from the Columbia Land Company.
I'll second. Johnner. Aye. McCombs.
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Missy. Next, we have a discussion of lobbying services. So I believe our contract with Skinner and Paschke and Kelly, I don't know if Kelly's online. Is Kelly online? So it's up for renewal. Kelly, welcome this morning.
Hello.
Hello there. So this is just a renewal of the agreement for lobbying services we've had in place. Is it now 2 years?
Yes, the completion of 2 years.
Okay, very good. And Kelly, as far as cost,
The same amount as the last 2 years, no increase.
very good. Board, any questions on this discussion?
I have none.
I have nothing.
And Keisha, I know, but you can still ask questions.
No, I know.
Don't
I don't have any.
hesitate.
Yep.
Okay. So I mean, from a value standpoint, I still think it's important for Marion County to have separate representation. And someone kind of attuned to our own interests. Kelly was at the economic meeting that we had, Carla, over at Lely. And is actually helping you organize those meetings now. Is that correct? So, and I thought that was a great meeting, especially with all of our business that attended, all of our businesses that attended that meeting. Very impressed by that. So very pleased about that. So yeah, I'm very supportive of this, Kelly. So if there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion on this agreement.
I make a motion, we approve the agreement.
I'll go ahead and second that.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye,
Johnner.
Abstain.
very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you again.
Kelly, thank you. All right, we have some appointments to the Marion County Compensation Board, and this was we also have an additional discussion item here from last meeting that Keisha raised, so we want to make sure we address that. You've got your slate in your packet for each of the elected officer positions, and I think all of them are represented other than supervisors. I don't think we're missing anybody, Jake, on there.
Not that I'm aware of at this point.
Okay, good. And there are no changes. The elected officers have all agreed to these.
Yeah, the recorder just updated her appointment. I'm not sure.
Okay,
Who do you have?
Cindy Fuller is
Yep,
on here.
yep.
So that's
a
Naomi.
renewed appointment.
Okay,
Yeah, Kevin Wadley resigned from his position. He no longer wanted to serve and.
I was gonna say, I didn't see Kevin's name on it. He's
Yeah.
been on here for a
Yeah,
long
he's
time.
done
so.
it forever, so he no longer wanted to do it. And Naomi, excuse me, has appointed Cindy Fuller.
Okay. And just from a public, so the public understands, when we say compensation board, this is a creature of the state. It's a creation by statute. And this board meets to discuss establishing the salaries for elected county representatives. So they meet, I think usually it's like in November, sometime in that time
Yep.
frame.
November, December, try to get it done before Christmas.
Right, and then they get that to Jake and they discuss the potential for raises. Those come to the Board of Supervisors. And then we have some options on how we can receive, change, or modify that recommendation. But we're limited by statute as well as to what we can do with that recommendation. But that's to give people a little bit of background. Discussion. Keisha, I know you had
Yep.
a couple that you wanted to talk about.
Yep. So last week last meeting, I had come up with a couple names that I had reached out. They have agreed to. But obviously wanted to know if you guys had, anybody you wanted to.
Remind me about the names, Keisha. It was Bill and
Bill Shepherd, so William Shepherd. Bill was supervisor for 16 years. And then Lyle Vandermeiden, which owns the Midwest Sanitation, sorry. And he and his wife Kathy have owned that for several years.
Okay.
And Lyle is in Pella. And Bill is in Knoxville.
Steve, any thoughts? Any discussion?
No, I'm fine with the appointments of those two.
And I would also like to add, Lyle has served on Board of Adjustments for Pella, so he understands boards. But also, with his business, he understands the business side of things. So a perspective, there that I thought was good too. So.
Very good. Yeah, I have no objections to adding supervisor representation on that. I think if we do that, and we've not done this in a long time, because I'm not sure even prior boards, Jake, when was the last time we had supervisor representation on this thing?
It's been a while. I'm not sure.
Because I don't even think we had this first.
I'd have to
term
go
when I was
back
on
to
my first
minutes.
term.
I'd have to go back to minutes.
Todd
to see.
Chambers, I think, had been a representation at some point.
Maybe right at the beginning of that
It
first
could be.
term.
He was represented the attorney for quite some time now. So,
Yeah. So.
I think he said something about Sam Nichols, I believe, when Sam Nichols was on.
That
So,
could be,
yeah.
that could be, that could be. Yeah. Very good. All right, very good. Well, I'm open to a motion on this, and we can add with the amendment to add Bill and Lyle as supervisor representatives. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the appointments for the Marion County compensation of Bill Shepherd and Lyle Vandermeiden.
Second.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. You should thank you for looking into that.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Next, we have a discussion item on building usage. It's really, what are we going to do with public health and some of our other properties? There's been a material change. Obviously, we've talked about this in prior supervisor meetings regarding our public health department. Grants have changed, state allocations of dollars have changed, and that has obviously impacted the staffing of our public health area, since many of those positions are funded by those grants. And now that those dollars have been shifted to other entities within the state of Iowa, we've had a drawdown in the number of staff occupying that space. Instead of letting that space kind of sit empty for an indefinite period, I asked Kim and Chris to start thinking about a plan, totally up for discussion. Nothing is set in stone, but of how we could best utilize that space. A couple things to keep in mind. Number one, we have committed significant resources to the public health building prior to knowing what the disposition of those dollars would be. Chris, I believe we probably put $500,000 or more into that building.
Yeah, over the last couple of years, roughly 600,000, most of it ARPA money, new roof, new HVAC system, new parking lot. And then Kim had done some updates to the building as well.
Right. So in terms of parking and HVAC and the roof, I mean, we put some significant dollars to make sure that that building is habitable and upgraded and a good space for operations. So anyway, that was kind of the genesis of the discussion. And I, in the last meeting, asked the supervisors to get with Kim and Chris and think about this and see what thoughts might be. And so here we are. Thoughts, discussion.
Well, yeah, I went out with Kim and we walked the whole building. And I believe that this has some merit. I mean, we have to look out for what is best for the Marion County taxpayer. And we have sunk a lot of money into that building. I don't know what the time frame, but what time frames we're looking at. You know, I think that's open. I think the consolidation would be, for the taxpayers, would be the best. I'd like some input from everybody that it affects, naturally. What we do with this site is another question that's open for discussion. Obviously, we have problems at this site with septic, and our parking area needs some attention, so we would have to look at those dollars, and I don't know if it's best interest in the taxpayers to put any more money into this place when we already have one that's already up to snuff,
Right.
for a better, lack of a better term. As far as the 6th Street Annex, you know, we have to keep in mind the lease we have with the DHS, and are we going to continue to provide them space, or are we going to let them look for their own space? I think we need to divest ourselves of the 6th Street Annex. Parking is a big problem there. I don't even know hardly anybody even uses it anymore, off and on, but I think in the best interest of the taxpayer, we have to look at consolidation.
Thank you, Steve. And just for the people in the room, I know online you can't see this, but we do have a large wall map. That's what that is. It's the proposal that Chris and Kim have come up with. And again, the stickers it's all negotiable. That is it, right, Kim? Okay, just want to make sure. I don't have my glasses on, so who knows what I'm pointing at right now? It could be a menu to McDonald's. I don't know. So, Keisha.
Yep, I'm in agreement with Sixth Street. Definitely, I think that's something we need to look into. I believe the contract with DHS, I think is through September of 23. We do need, I think it's space and like how much square footage we have to provide of some sort. I don't know.
Mhm.
Something we'd have to definitely look at the contract.
Well, it's, excuse me, it's kind of confusing because there's two parts of the DHS. There's a part we have to provide space
Right.
for and provide, and the other one we don't have to.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, so finding out the difference, yeah, I agree. The public health building, yes, we have spent, and if we could have looked in our crystal ball, I mean, we would have maybe, but we didn't know what was gonna happen with these grants, and, so those things. I think that we have spent considerable amount of money there, and we've spent considerable amount of money here too. Meaning with the tornado shelter and, just doing that recently. So honestly, I think I would like to hear from like Jeff and Carla and Lisa and, what they're looking at. I did tour it. The building is nice out there. It is. So, but I'd also need to know how it's gonna affect those guys too. So, because I think meeting space is important for us. I don't know that, the lack of meeting space does make me question what we're going to do. I think the fourth floor courthouse is important that you guys have, especially for Jake. But these meeting spaces I know, and I know that public health, I'm sure those meeting spaces are being used too. So I don't know if any of those people want to, Jeff or Carla or Lisa have any thoughts?
Well, as I've told Mark before, I work for the board and I will work where you tell me that my office is going to be ultimately. I don't see anything wrong with public health for us. It actually helps with a few issues that we have out here with the door. We would have more privacy in that building. So again, the space is a little bit smaller, but our space here is sufficient. We don't need all the space that we have here. So I think for HR, you tell us where we're going to go and that's where we'll go. Because frankly, we can work anywhere because we work with all the employees, all the department heads. As long as we have a space to meet with new hires and our files, we're good. So I'm open to what the board tells us that we're doing.
Lisa?
Certainly echo that. As far as Lisa goes, it is ultimately your decision. We work for you. So where you tell us to work is where we work. But there are some things that, one, I've not seen the plan. I do not know where your plan is for me, was not included in that. But one of the things I know that is important to our office is that we often are bringing in people, whether that's corporate people, whether that's agency people. So it is extremely important for us to put a good face on what our office is and who we meet with. So it is helpful to me to be able to have enough space to host those people in my office like I currently can with the space that I have. Obviously, when we came out here, we have less space than what I had back at the courthouse. It's been a problem the last while to have our storage have to be outside our door. That does not provide a very pleasable aesthetic. So no matter where I'm at, I would love to have a place that my storage is not out in the open. I think that is not professional. I'll just put it that way. Whether it's here, whether it's there, that storage needs to have a place that can be put away behind doors. As far as adjacencies, I have no real adjacencies with any of the departments out there. The departments that I have critical adjacencies with would be conservation and Missy's office. So public health is not one that I necessarily cross paths with. And certainly if we would move out there, I would certainly hope that the building would be renamed, just to make it clear that it's a Marion County building and not a public health building, because it seems kind of funny to be located in a public health building when you're economic development. It just doesn't seem to go together. I will say it take a long time for our people to learn this location. We've not been here long. To move again is again with all of our websites and publications. There's just a lot of work that has to go on. So that does concern me to move again with all the notifications and getting people used to it, because we are a very meeting oriented department. And so that's somewhat of a concern. The other thing that I had on here is, it's a personal concern. I was very excited when the new shelter was built here. I have some mobility issues. I cannot go in the other shelter. So that is a factor just for me personally. That doesn't affect the department. But certainly I will be wherever you tell me to be, whether it's a closet or it's a Taj Mahal. But I just really want to keep the importance of, we bring in people who are very important for Marion County to provide a public or a positive image of Marion County. So whether that's back at the courthouse, whether that's at the public health, whether that's here. Right now, I feel like my office is very professional, not sure about the building, but I would be perfectly fine staying here. And I would be perfectly fine going to the courthouse or going to the public health. If I had my preference, I would say no change, just because I am a one-person department. And that change just takes, I've got a lot of things, new things planned for this year, and that could affect it depending on the timing of things. So timing is also one of those critical things that is much notification, so we can work around our work plan with me especially, is helpful to, if I was to say we were going to move in a month, I would have a lot of challenges with what we have on our current plate already scheduled. So time is probably for me one of the biggest issues.
Very good. Carla, thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
Morning. So going back 5 years ago, I volunteered to move out here when there was nobody here. Even though several of my counterparts thought I was crazy, because of the efficiencies that it gained me. For the first time at that point, I'd been here 10 years. It would be the first time that everything I was responsible for was on one campus and I wasn't running all over the place. Same goes for now. To move my office from here basically wrecks those efficiencies that were gained in 2017. We will spend a tremendous amount of time running back and forth between the warehouse and that building on North Lincoln. I would just ask that you consider, as you consider your options, just note that my office is a little bit different. It's more than just an office environment. Got the sign shop right there and we got the warehouse over there. And we, during COVID, you saw the number of times that we would jump up from here and run to the warehouse to check on an order, fill a PPE order, deliver freight over there, all of those. So I would just ask that those be contemplated as you go forward.
Very good. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Honestly, I think that getting rid of 6th Street would be, probably the best move. But at this point, I think we should probably, my personal viewpoint is to keep both buildings, public health building and this building.
Steve, any other thoughts or?
I appreciate everybody's input on this. I'm a little torn because I think ultimately I have to consider what's best for the taxpayer. It's a tough one for me. I mean, I understand everybody's concerns, but then we're gonna have empty space out there that we're heating and cooling, then we're heating and cooling two buildings. And the septic system here is what really aggravates me.
Isn't people gonna still be here though? We're still gonna use the septic, I guess, and I question within the last 30 days, we were finishing a building for a tornado shelter and, you know, I think I struggle with that. I mean, you know, obviously the building was good enough then to be able to think we were gonna do a tornado shelter. So what's the change other than,
Well, the change is we got a half-empty building at Public Health we didn't know we were gonna have.
Yeah,
That's the change. I mean, that's the material difference. So if we're going to heat and cool a building of that size that we put far more into than anything we put into out here, then we're gonna be wasting dollars, is what it comes down to. Now, it could be somewhere in the future. Maybe some of the public health comes back 5 years from now, when it comes up for grant, when you submit those grants again. But we don't know that. So you don't plan for that. You plan to utilize what you have now and make the best use out of the space you have now. Again, maximizing taxpayer dollars. Decisions that were made before we knew about the disposition of public health. Yeah. Yep, you do the best you can with what you know at the time. But the dollars, the difference in dollars for what we put in public health versus out here, it's material. It's a material difference. And to
do we
continue to
have
heat,
those figures at all? Chris, do you have those figures?
What figures are you exactly asking
Like,
for? Keisha?
Taking, you know, like heating, cooling for that building versus this building, you know,
I mean, that could be a complete guess at any point in time because it's all gonna be outside temperatures. I would tell you public health's a lot more efficient building. You got a brand new rooftop units and a better insulated building with a better insulated roof. So on its face, yes, it's larger square footage. But that building is far more efficient than this building is, just based upon the construction of it.
so what do we do? And I'm asking this as the board. I mean, what do we do about room space? I mean, obviously, if we were to move over there, we would have, you know, our meetings would be in the training, as you call it, the training room, Kim? Yeah, yeah. And I know there's another conference room there. But it seems like these buildings are being, I mean, these rooms are being used too. So how do we give up 2 rooms for conference room? Or
I don't know, can we adjust that building to make more meeting space?
I already did that in the plan. You'll see that where I have the board of supervisors, there is a very small meeting room. That, you know, you might be able to meet with a couple of people. There by the front office, there's kind of a space for a one-on-one. The training room, of course, it holds 50 classroom and about 80 theater. Room 158 will hold about 10 people. Room 156 will hold 6 to 8 people, and 116 will hold 4 to 6. So those are the, in that plan, those are the open spaces for meetings.
Okay, very good, thank you. Sorry, Missy. If we're gonna make Jason move, you gotta move too.
I would just assume that if you guys do make the move, like I used public health building the other night because we were anticipating more people than we had. But that any conference room would be available for my after hours meetings, just like they are here.
Sure, sure, no, absolutely, I don't see why that would be an issue.
Because only having one conference room on the 4th floor at the courthouse doesn't work for me to have after hours meetings and public come and clear through the courthouse. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, certainly the room that Kim calls the training room is a much larger accommodation for meetings and such. So, Andrew.
So I just wanted to speak from the technology side of things. I did speak with both Kim and Chris on the proposed plan. And from IT's perspective, it really doesn't matter that much. We can make pretty much any option work because we have fiber connectivity to all of our facilities right now. So moving people around here or there or anywhere shouldn't really particularly matter that much for us. The one caveat is that we do have at this facility our disaster recovery site. And so that site can continue to stay here even if you would move people, or it could be moved. It would be a significant uplift of work, but we could move it to either public health building or any other building. The main central data center for the county is at the courthouse.
Yeah.
So obviously it can't be there, but it could be at another facility if we needed it to. It worked well here. And I think the reason that we initially designed it to be here was if there was a disaster at another building or, even something minor as a roof leak or something where you had to evacuate a building, this building could be at, the design at that time was this building could be set up with tables and chairs for people to work at. With our equipment housed here, this could be an island. We could turn it on and we could function.
Right.
So that's part of the thought process. I know Jeff has a continuity planning session coming up soon to talk about some of these things, but that's our current situation where we are currently.
Thank you, Andrew. So just so we don't get too hung up on this right now, remember, this is a discussion item. We don't have to make any decisions right now. People can still gather information, can still think about it, get more numbers if you want, find more detailed information. My general thesis is this. I'll tell you my approach and why I even went down this road to even propose the possibility of doing this. We should, this is me, dispose of property we don't use. We should dispose of property that's inefficient to hold. We should utilize our space that we put significant dollars into to the best of our ability. That's it. So that's why I even had Kim and Chris start working through this, because that building we have put a lot of money into over the years, not just what we did for COVID, but over the years. Little like law enforcement. All right. So to have a half empty space that will still have to heat and cool to the same effect because we don't have zone ability, it's going to chew up cash. It's going to be an operational expense. So is there merit in making decisions about how to consolidate space? And is that good? Steve's exactly right. For the taxpayer to do that, given all the disruptions that it would cause. And what would those disruptions look like? So that's the whole point of it, but we can certainly take more time. Nobody's saying we got to back the U-Haul up today and move people out. So I think this is a really good discussion, and Chris and Kim, thank you for putting together the beginning of the proposal. And then I think we just go forward and think about it, get more information if you want, unless anybody's willing to make a motion that we do something right now.
I think prior to our 6th Street annex with our contract with our lease with the DHS, I believe they were housed right here in this room.
Yeah, I think they were, Steve. I think you're right.
And if we're going to continue to lease space to that segment of DHS, where would we look to do that at? We got to consider that. And I know in my conversations when I went out and visited the site, what in the future, if public health grows again, I mean, it may not be under Kim's tenure, but in the future, if it does, then what do we do? I mean, if the
I know
thought
what
was-
I would tell Des Moines to do,
If the
but that's
thought
up
was,
to you.
well, I hate to be, I hate to be held hostage by the state of Iowa grant money. But that's what that's in reality, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So I have mixed emotions on what we do with this site if we were all to move out there. Do we keep it as a backup? I don't know.
I think, Steve, those are all fair points. And I think we've got three properties we're looking at, right? Public Health, Sixth Street, and this one. We have three. How full is the annex right now? Sixth Street. How many
It's
people
not.
are in it?
At any given time, 1 to 2 people, and that's maybe 2 days a week.
1 to 2 people in a building that size.
The Sixth Street Annex to me is a no-brainer.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So regardless of how we move people, we know that there's a property that is being very ill utilized and it's costing us dollars. So at a minimum, we got to do something about that property,
Yeah.
right? And
That's
as far as the people who are in it, Steve, and the contracts that we've had with them, we can adjust contracts and spacing to meet their requirements. We can find them a spot. But I think if we agonize too much over that, we continue to have a building with 2 people in it that just sits there, costs us money. A
And
lot like the county home.
so the board knows, I mean, we currently have for the required space, which is child protective services. When we remodeled what would have been the old county attorney's area on the 4th floor of the courthouse, they already have a spot waiting for them there.
Right.
So now you're talking about case management, 1 person, 2 people tops, which is the lease side of the DHS, just so people understand, we're not required to provide case management space. We
Right.
lease them space.
If I was the state, I'd be looking at that too. I mean, if they're working from home, why is the state wasting money?
Right.
Leasing that size of a space.
Right.
Is there option? I mean, obviously with the state, they lease, but I know before like Fifth Judicial, they lease. I mean, if there's room, there's a building we want to keep, like such as this building, they lease here versus leasing there. I mean, opportunities, I guess.
Well, that was kind of my thought process, Keisha, but if we do that, then somebody's gonna have to move out there.
Right.
To free up space here.
Yeah, because I think she put did you have a spot for DHS? Is that correct, Kim?
I did, and then I took it out and I can put it back in. And because the information just keeps changing, so I didn't know what to do. But there is, if my understanding is case management's working from home. And if they just need a landing spot, they could use one of the meeting rooms to land. I mean, but if they need an office, we would need to designate something, but,
Yeah, that's something that
Yeah,
the
but if-
state, only the state can answer that question. I mean,
yeah.
And Rachel Cecil isn't, I don't think she's on, is she? I just didn't know because she'd be moving if the location, huh? She is on? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on.
So Rachel, have the plan, which, I just didn't know how that affected you.
So I mean, kind of the same sentiment everybody said, we work for the taxpayers and you guys are our supervisors and we'll go where we're told. As far as like serving the public, we still do have walk-ins from time to time. We have individuals that set up appointments with our social worker quite often. So that would be my only, we still need to have that, accessibility for the public, but we will be wherever we're assigned.
Is that part of the building in which Rachel would be going to the proposal? It seems to me it needs a little bit of, sprucing. But, I'm not here to dump a bunch of money back, into that section of it either. So I struggle with moving people and then us moving and, I don't think today we can make a decision in my mind.
I think that's Yeah,
No, I'm not ready to make a decision today either.
well, that's good. It's good discussion then, I think. So have we exhausted this topic? Can we get a motion to close discussion? And we'll put it on a future agenda once everybody wraps their minds around this more. Okay?
Make motion to close discussion.
Second,
Johnner,
Aye.
Combs,
aye.
Ramey.
Aye. All right. We got resolution 2022-82, Iowa Economic Development Authority nuisance building application. Carla, is that something? That's Glenn. Is Glenn on? Okay, what do we need to do? Do we need to approve this? Is
If
that
you
what they're asking
recall,
for?
if you recall back in August, Director Durham came here to visit. After her visit, we found out about a couple different programs that might apply to the VA campus. This one is specific to the laundry building. However, the nuisance building application is required by a city. So we, as the county, cannot apply to that program, but the city of Knoxville can on our behalf, basically, as the property owner. So what this is them applying to that program. It is a loan program. However, when Director Durham was here and in her emails, she has indicated that she is willing to give the loan to us as a forgivable loan, which is basically a grant. So this is setting up the relationship between Knoxville and Marion County to do the work of this grant program or this loan program, of which Chris has provided us some numbers for the grant up to Knoxville for the grant application or for the loan application. Knoxville would be filing. Marion County, as I understand it, would be doing the work as it indicates in the resolution, as far as hooking up the utilities to the building and taking out the internal equipment so that the building is ready for sale.
Okay. Thank you, Carla. So the ultimate issue here for us is in support of Knoxville's application for this nuisance property and abandoned building loan. They need us to sign off on this, that if it doesn't go
Mhm.
as a loan, we're the backstop.
Right, as a forgivable loan.
Right. So that's the thing to keep in mind. If there would be a change in the structure, because what we have from Deb right now is just her intent or her
Yes.
comment.
And I
will-
have it in writing as
and-
well in
and
an
she's got it in
email.
writing. So hopefully that holds.
And when we talked with Ed, who is the program manager for this program, he had indicated that Director Durham had communicated that with him. There's only 2 times in the past that they have given this in a forgivable loan, so it's not their typical method of operation. But I think Director Durham is trying to help us because she knows the enormous amount of undertaking Marion County has done to develop the property to where it is today, so it can be utilized, and she's trying to help us get this property back on the tax rolls, being a positive thing for Marion County.
And
and
Chris,
Iowa.
from the dollars that are in here, we got 505,920. What does that do for us regarding the laundry building?
So that does all utility hookups, that empties the building, that fixes, we need some gutter fixing, roof, and just an all around nip and tuck on the building. It's nothing substantial. I mean, we're not talking about interior wall spaces being changed or anything like that. This is to get the building up, hooked to utilities, make sure it's empty and weather tight.
And that will allow us to put the building on lowest, which is the site selector service that we use for available buildings. And so by having the utilities to the building and the building cleared out will make the building much more marketable. And being able to have nearly 500,000 of that done by a grant basically from the state gets us that much more revenue when we go to sell the building.
Okay.
Obviously, the building will be worth a lot more than it is in its current state today.
So the forgivable loan does have a history of being
Forgiven.
done before.
Yes,
Okay.
they did it in Marshalltown, and I forget where the other location was, but they've done it twice before.
Very
Does
good.
this stop us from, are we still applying for RIF then? because I mean, I know the RIF money had, because the reason I say that is I know Representative Bowden is meeting with Debbie Durham this week, and she's talking about Marion County and RIF.
Only
So-
if we would succeed. And based on that meeting you had with Deb, it didn't
deals with-
sound like we would succeed with RIF.
Right, because of the Glenwood property. The Glenwood property is a state-owned property. There's two portions to RIF. She told us we were not eligible for demolition because we had already completed the demolition, even though there's some question of whether we are or aren't. But at that meeting, she indicated we weren't. She said the second part of it for the redevelopment, we would be eligible for. But if Glenwood would come in for that portion, they would always rank above us because they are a state-owned facility and not a federally owned facility.
So can I say that roughly the RIF, I mean, because there was $1 million, I think, in each, and maybe Kelly, can you speak on that? How much money was in the RIF? She's not on?
It's
Okay.
like 1.7 million.
Okay, so, I mean, and then turn, I mean, yeah, I guess, this is better than nothing, but it's possible it's a loan, you know, we don't know that it's, you know, she says that hopefully she'll forgive it. I just, I'm a little frustrated because I feel like we've kind of been thrown a bone of, oh, by the way, we've done Glenwood, when the process is, you know, legislators, I don't think understood how that, you know.
Yeah, there's a
process, and I
difference.
think it's important. that-
There's a difference between what legislators put into policy and what rules make in the granting process. And so the policy was changed, the rules were not changed. So the scoring criteria and that kind of thing remained how it was. So a state property would always basically score better than a federally owned property as it sits today, without the rules being changed.
Right. So the statutory language change did us no good. Because that's what changed.
If we didn't have the Glenwood project, it would have been fine.
Well,
But it's
but
being-
the intent of the statutory language change, Carla.
Yeah.
So we had Kelly work on this for 2 years, was to change the statute so that we would qualify against state-sponsored projects or projects that were state-owned, previously state-owned. That was the whole point.
Yeah, it allows federal projects to apply.
Yes. But
And goes
apparently
retro,
but
too.
apparently the rulemaking folks
Had already made a decision.
or aren't complying with the statute.
Well, it's just, as I understand it, again, I'm not.
I know you're not the person.
I'm
to
not
be
the person
talking to.
doing this.
You're right, yep.
Don't kill the messenger. But as I understand it, it's
You
just
better
like,
sit down, Carla. This could get hot.
as I understand it, it's like many of the programs I've worked before. The intent of what gets passed isn't always the intent of what the scoring criteria are. And so
So
that's,
we have the administrators running counter to what the legislative intent is.
not necessarily counter.
No, Carla, you don't have to, don't defend it. Don't defend
It's
it.
political.
Don't defend it.
I'm just telling you like I see it and
I-
what we were told.
I appreciate
And what
that.
we were told is that because of Glenwood, now had Glenwood not been in the picture and not been vying for these funds, we would have probably been very good because there's very few of these projects that come forward. That's the other big thing. There's not a lot of these projects sitting out there.
That's true. Every senator I met with said we should, it was a no-brainer that we should get that money. Thank you. You're just the messenger, Carla.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate, you know, the information.
So
It's just-
the whole, post that meeting, the information we have is RIF probably not going to happen because the rulemaking bodies have decided to not keep up with the statutory changes. I'm gonna put this in my own language. I better be careful. We probably never get another dime from the state. So now we're applying for this, but we have an email saying that it would be forgivable.
So what we're being asked in this resolution is to have the city apply for this.
But then we could ultimately be, you know, the
Worst case
$500,000.
scenario, though, you have to understand is, okay, say it is a loan and we have to pay it back at 0 interest. More than likely, that's if it goes to the wrong. Your building, your asset that you own is still more valuable.
We just gotta be able to
Yeah,
get the
we're-
money back out of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like if you do this, there's not going to be any way to recoup if you were not given a forgivable loan. There is mechanisms when you sell the building. The building will sell a lot better with utilities hooked up to it and all the equipment taken out of it.
I got it. Thanks, Carla. Thank you. All right. Steve, Keisha? What do you want to do?
You know, parts of me, I mean, I don't know what the time frame is on to doing this. Do we know? Because I'd like to see what Representative Bowden's, I mean, with the meeting.
There is a time frame on this. There's, I think he said a little over 1 million left in the fund. As I understand it, getting it in sooner versus later will help us before that fund runs out. Because unlike this, the RIF build, this one is just a nuisance building. So any city who has a nuisance building can apply to this fund. So there's a lot more people that potentially can apply for these funds.
So Carla, for me to support this, could you send a copy of that email confirmation from Deb Durham to Jake Grandia so that he has it for the record?
Mhm.
We'll attach it. And if this does get support, we'll have documentary evidence to say this is what the state of Iowa told us. So at least we have something to fall back on in the event Deb's not heading up that department.
Right.
There's a change and someone says, oh, well, we didn't mean that. Not that the state of Iowa would ever do that.
And there probably is a way prior to the city of Knoxville signing off on the loan to get that in a formal writing
Well, I
too.
think if there is a way, we should
Yeah.
find that way.
And I
and
think that's
have
something
that
that
as
you
part
could
of it.
certainly request of Knoxville
Yeah.
as they submit their application, that part of it is that they get that in writing from the
got it.
state, once the state approves the loan.
I got it. Thank you.
Because
So,
there will be a time from when the loan is approved to when you actually agree to it.
yeah, we have to actually sign on the dotted line.
Right. And so
Yeah.
there would be a period of time there where you could get that in writing and have a formal documentation.
Thank you. So I'm willing to support this purely from the standpoint of getting the building online. So we get these things done, it puts it up. Carla's right. It would make it a building that could actually be put up for sale. Now, we want all the documentation and everything to go with it to ensure that it is a forgivable loan, so it costs us nothing at the end of the day before we sign on any dotted lines.
Right.
So truly becomes state money, the only support we've received thus far.
At least that would show our intent, that this is how we understand this.
Correct. And then it becomes a legal question after that. And if they change it, then we enter a whole different realm.
Well, then we revisit it.
Yeah. All right. Is there a motion on this?
I make the motion as presented.
To approve the resolution?
2022-82.
Resolution, yeah.
Yeah, I'll second.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye.
All right, very good. Carla, thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
You're a great messenger, Carla. All right. Updates. Steve,
I have none.
Keisha.
I have fifth judicial and impact this week.
All right. Thank you. My update is similarly from the VA standpoint. You know, we had a couple of discussions on the park or the potential for a park and a grant we were pursuing. I even forgot the title of the grant, Carla. Destination Iowa. And in prior Board of Supervisor meetings, I said that once I reviewed the numbers with Carla, Chris, and Steve Edwards, if the numbers did not work out where it was economically viable, we would not bring it forward. We had a meeting. Carla, Chris, and Steve Edwards did a tremendous job putting together an economic analysis, turned that around very quickly. So very pleased that we can do that kind of analysis in that way, very robust. It doesn't support itself. So we would get a grant and we would have to put forward additional taxpayer money. But then the revenues from the park would not support any debt reduction. So in other words, you would continue to fund the park and the taxpayer financing. And it would not, there would be no payback for that. There certainly are corollary economic benefits to the city of Knoxville. Businesses, M2 spend, all those things. But from a county standpoint, we would be adding additional debt to support that endeavor without any idea of what we would get out of it to be able to support that debt reduction. And because of the turnaround time, we don't have time to go to Knoxville and say, well, how much are you willing to put into it? Again, this is a grant that's a limited funded grant. It's going to run out of money by the end of the year. So it was a way to do a good exercise to see if it was economically viable. It's not. So that's why it's not on the agenda, because I said I'm not going to bring it forward if it's not viable. So that is my update.
I would like to add just, I am interested in what Representative Bowden has to say, and I hope she'll report. I'll try to reach out to her again to follow up with what her meeting with
On
Debbie.
this
Yep,
previous grant.
yep, on
Okay.
TRIF, and then whatever she reports, I'll try to.
Very
send on
good.
to you,
I'd
you,
be-
Carla, and everybody. Yep.
I will be curious. All right. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make motion to adjourn.
Second.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. We are adjourned.